premise of this video was a wacky video that didn't really make any sense, with the goal of throwing the viewer off, with inspiration coming from an early installment of Alice in Wonderland. The original concept for this video was a huge one, to be honest. It was going to be a big food fight at a big dinner party with loads of guests in a mansion, but due to budgeting and timescale, that wasn't really feasible at all. We actually kept the core of the idea being a food fight on a table, and the guests were members of Harvey's live band. I've worked with Harvey on quite a few projects now, and it is always an absolute blast to work with him in the band. Such an awesome guy, so talented, and he's literally destined to go right to the top of the music industry. We were quite pressed on time for this video. Harvey had work in the morning, so we met at the forest at 1 p.m. and we didn't start shooting until like 2. Now, I thought we were going to have longer than we did, but we since found out when we got there that car park shut at 4:30. So we literally had about 2.5 hours to lug all our stuff into the middle of the forest with the table and chairs and the cake and my camera equipment, the tripod, the lights and all that kind of stuff into the middle of the forest, set it all up and actually start shooting. And so when it was kind of dawned on us that we had 2 hours to shoot this, it was almost a bit like, oh wow, this is going to be close. But we ended up absolutely smashing through it. Like every shot was almost just like shot in one take. We didn't really reshoot any shots, which is almost unheard of, but it just shows how in sync we are when it comes to making these music videos now and how efficient we are. And we actually had time to spare go into the car. I think we wrapped up at like 10 past 4, and the walk into the forest was like 10-15 minutes, so we had a couple of minutes spare at the car to get out the car park and go home. So yeah, pretty rapid shoot on this one. I did have a rough plan for this video, but I listened to it so many times, and we had about a week and a half, 2 weeks to actually plan this video. And the more I listened to it, the more I just had this such clear vision of how I want the video to be and how I want the video to flow and have some sort of gimmicks in there as well. And together with Harvey, we constructed this idea, like a very rough plan. When we actually got there to shoot, a lot of it was kind of on the fly, but because I had such a clear vision in my head, I knew what I wanted to get. It just wasn't necessarily wrote down on a bit of paper, which I don't necessarily think is always a bad thing, because it just allows creative freedom on the day. And whenever you go to shoot, you can plan as much as you want, but you can't prepare for the feeling on the set with how you feel actually on the day and all these other things, your energy levels and all this kind of stuff, and what's actually like motivated you that day, and all of that comes into it. And so I think it was great that we had some creative freedom on the day for anyone to chip in and go, oh, this shot would be cool, this shot would be cool. But it pretty much turned out how I wanted it to in my head and the vision I had, minus a couple of things, but so happy with how it turned out. We decided on the black and white. It was actually the original idea from Harvey. He wanted a black and white video. And then as we started planning like this mansion and all the huge idea we had, with that kind of got stripped back. We weren't going to do black and white. And then it got stripped back even further, and it just ended up being a mini food fight in the forest with this band. We opted to go for that black and white because of the colours in the forest at this time of year aren't that great. Like there is some greens and browns, but I think the black and white colour really adds to the video anyway. Allows a bit more freedom with the colour grade and actually bringing in that contrast between light and dark, and kind of adds to the retro like wacky feel of it anyway. Do you know what I mean? I actually wanted the video to be in 4:3, and this is probably a mistake on my behalf, is that when we framed up the table shots, I didn't leave enough room left and right. It's just one of those things that just didn't go into my head when we were shooting. So I ended up just doing 16:9 widescreen, which again works out fine. I think you see more of the frame anyway, but some of the shots would have looked quite cool in 4:3, but you live and you learn. To be efficient on the day, because obviously, like I said, we only had 2 hours. Whilst the band were building the table, I got Harvey off to the side doing a live performance. I actually used a gold bounce up against the tripod that reflected the light that was directly behind him onto his face. So you got this really bright background, and then you've got this bright front of his face and his body completely lit up just by this bounce board. And it's such a cool effect. I've wanted to do it for a while, and I'm so glad I got to use that in this video. They're also so cheap. You can probably pick one up on Amazon for like 10-15 pounds, I imagine. I've had mine for ages, and it's great. There's two sides. You have the gold, and then you have the silver side. You can also use it as a diffuser, and you can use it as a neg fill as well, with the casing just being a black material. So it's so versatile, and you can use it in so many different environments. I'd highly recommend, if you don't have one, to just get one, because they're so good to have in situations like this. I suppose the most technical part of this video was the chair swapping scene, but it wasn't that technical at all. So I had the camera on a tripod, left it in the same spot, and I essentially just got them each to take turns in a different seat and just sit there for 30 seconds pretending to eat food or sit there whilst Harvey's performing. We knew when we were doing it, it was going to look cool, but I think it looked even cooler in the edit once we've all looked at it afterwards. We thought, yeah, that was such a good idea, and it just adds to the bookiness of the video. I didn't really have to do too much editing and too much wiggle room to the shots, but I did overlay them and bring the opacity down in each clip to match up the table and the cake, because that's the one thing that I wanted to keep the same. Because obviously the chairs would have kind of moved in and out as they went to and from the tables, but as long as that cake stayed in exactly the same spot in each shot. So that's kind of what my reference point was when I was matching all the clips up. And I think a great tip when you do music videos is every angle you do, record the whole song, because you never know in the edit, you might just need to cut to it for 5 seconds. And if you have the whole song and every single angle, you have so much footage to cut to. If it's just one word you just want to cut to and he's still singing it, or you might do an action on one of the takes that really goes with the song that he didn't do in a previous take. So I think it's good to just cover all bases and record every shot in full. In the shots where they're all huddled over, I love how the sun is just like peeking through Harvey's legs, and it just adds another layer to the shot. It almost adds a bit of dynamic to the actual shot with something peeking in and out, and it just keeps you engaged throughout that shot. And I was hoping that the sun was going to peek out behind his leg. Obviously you never really know as he's doing the shot, but as Harvey and they're all kind of swaying, singing to the song, it just like poked out a little bit, and it just looks really cool in that sort of shot. And fun fact about the scene where Harvey and Connor both walk, where there's a shot of all the trees in the background and they walk either side, they're actually 2 separate shots. So the original idea was that each band member is going to walk between the trees in like a diagonal motion, and like as one of them gets to one tree, the other one was going to walk out to look like they're changing character every time. But as it turned out, the shot was quite long and it didn't really fit in the music video. So I actually just used the ending of that clip of Connor walking out, and same with Harvey, and I just blended them together. So they're 2 separate shots, and I put a mask in the middle, and it just looked like they're both walking at the same time, just to add a bit of dynamic to the shot. Again, nothing crazy, but it's a shot that wouldn't have made it otherwise. The ending food fight was so much fun to film. Like, we actually did it a few times before the final shot that you see in the video. We discussed it before, like, so the camera was really high, and I was saying to the guys, like, when he gets into that last verse, like, I want you to go crazy. And the first time they did it, they just softly put their hands into the cake, and it just looked so bad. But one of them, I think Connor actually took a chunk of the cake out, so we had to like smooth over the cake, or rebuild the cake a little bit. And then we did it again, and as they first grabbed it, I was shouting in the background, go fucking crazy, go crazy, like going, just geeing them up like completely. And yeah, they just went absolutely crazy. They were just mental, throwing the table, throwing the chairs, and throwing cake at each other. Oh, it was so much fun. It was so good to just watch them actually have a blast with it as well, because all of them are such good mates, and it's just, yeah, such a great shoot. And I think that was the second to last shot we got. Obviously, and we did the slow-mo stuff with all the chaos in the background. And I think that's what I love most about directing, is like you're involved without being involved. Like, I'm almost going just as crazy as them on the outside, and they react off that, and then they just went absolutely mental, and they just absolutely carried it beyond further than what I was doing on the outside. So yeah, so it's such a cool shot, so much energy in it. Music videos like this are just awesome to do, because you can be as creative and crazy as you like, and Harvey's such an incredible performer that he just carries the video anyway. Like, I'm sure I could just get him stood still and people would watch the entire video just because of his actions and how good he is at performing. So he just makes my life so much easier. And that's all for that music video. There's nothing crazy technical in there, but there's some cool spots in there that I think are worth sharing and are worth telling you about. I hope you enjoyed this video and found out a little bit, and hopefully you learned something new from it. And I hope you're well, and I will see you soon. How many times did I want to say "and" then? Ugh.